I work as night watchman here at Fred's Wax Museum to put myself through criminology college. It used to be very lonely until recently when I plugged in my crime computer. Suddenly, oscillating vibrations brought to life 3 legendary monsters. Dracula, the werewolf, and Frankenstein. Creatures hated and feared for centuries, now determined to make up for their past misbehaving by fighting crime wherever they find it. Together, we're the Monster Squad.
Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave Podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew, and today we're going to be taking another look at an episode of the Monster Squad. And joining me once again, as he's been since the very beginning, is the co-director of the American Sci-Fi Classics track for Dragoncon, which will be coming up very shortly, Mr. Joe Crowe. Hey, Joe.
Hello.
You know, it's funny. As we're going through these episodes, I know I said the reason I wanted to do this was because of the Batman 66 influences. But more and more as we're starting to get into this, I'm seeing it's more than just an influence. It's not even just, hey, here's the kind of joke you'd see. We're starting to see actors. We're starting to see writers. We're starting to see directors. I'm guessing Stanley Ralph Ross, who was the showrunner here for the show, called in basically all his friends and said, hey, you want to do this goofy show because it's as much fun as Batman.
Yeah, I think so too. I recognize henchmen and side characters in every single episode, and no face, no exception. More people that you're going to go, multiple times throughout the show.
Yes. Yep. I mean, and it's interesting because you say no face, and of course we had false face on Batman, and what's funny is they say that false face, they never brought him back because the plastic masks they would put over him made him look like a burn victim. And I thought to myself, when you look at it now, and maybe it's just 2022 eyes, it doesn't seem as bad as when they actually do the reveal for no face.
I was going to say at some point when we got there, that is the most terrifying thing I have ever seen. I've seen scary things on TV before.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But the revelation of that thing, I can only compare it, I guess, the first thing I thought of was Norman Bates' mother in Psycho. Oh, spoiler warning for a 50-year-old movie. But, oh my gosh. It's terrifying. We'll get there. We'll get to that point. But,
we'll get to it. Yeah. Now, the episode is called No Face. It aired October 16th, 1976, written by Greg Strangis. Now, he was a writer also over on Electra Woman and Dyna Girl. He did the Pharaoh episodes, the first of which we just recently covered here on the podcast, myself and Kevin Eldridge there. It's directed by James Sheldon, who directed the very first Catwoman story for Batman 66, The Perfect Crime. So definitely some connections there. And then finally, as our guest star here, Sid Haig, playing Chief Running Nose, had appeared as Ali Baba in the Electra Woman, or not as Ali Baba, he was the genie in the Ali Baba episode of Electra Woman and Dyna Girl, but he also appeared all the way back in Batman 66 as one of King Tut's henchmen.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was in quite a few 70s TV shows, including Wonderbug, and as I said, Electra Woman and Dyna Girl, and he also appeared in an episode of $6 Million Man.
Oh, so you've covered him before.
Covered him before, but I forgot actually for a moment until I was just looking it up now. He was in the second season premiere, Nuclear Alert, as one of 4 government representatives trying to buy a nuclear device from the black market.
Of course, that's the only place to get it. I don't know why you... and we'll in fact see that, not in this episode, but in the next one.
Yes.
But in The Astrologer.
Yes, The Astrologer, which is another... Yeah, well, we'll get to that one. That one shocked me. I'd completely forgotten about that one. You know, we've got to always have these cute tags at the beginning and the end. And this one actually was one of the funnier ones. Just the whole idea of our 3 monsters watching a horror movie and being scared by it.
time you three watch Horrors of the Wax Museum, you have nightmares for weeks.
Never again, Walt. It's bad on the old heart.
I know what'll get our spirits up. Let's tell each other ghost stories.
An excellent thought. Have you two gentlemen heard the story about the mummy who devours Cleveland, Ohio? No. Oh, good.
All the fairy tales, Drac.
I was just getting to the best part.
It'll have to wait. Our mayor is on TV.
I dug it. It's like they had no memory. And I'm going to go, I think I've decided they're not wax figures.
Okay.
In the canon inside my head, I've decided that they were just frozen and stuck in, or, put in suspended animation and stuck in a museum where their secret identities, if you will, are wax figures. That is how I'm justifying it to myself, that they have memories of doing these things and being these creatures, and they don't melt.
Right.
When they never, I get, was it the first episode that just sent me and you down that rabbit hole trying to figure out why they said they were wax figures? Because I'm pretty sure they did say it.
They did. They did. And we were questioning why wax figures felt the need to atone for mythical creatures' wrongdoings.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yes, that was, I think, it derailed our entire recording. Trying to figure it out. But I feel like now these are just the monsters who used to do the things, and now they're trying to atone.
They're trying to atone, exactly. Although, ironically enough, the title of the movie, Horrors of the Wax Museum.
Yeah. It all comes back around.
Yes. And speaking of coming back around, we got Mayor Goldwyn back.
I come to you this evening wearing my heart on my sleeve.
Tried wearing my heart on my sleeve once and ruined a perfectly good suit.
Shh, Frank. Show some respect.
Tonight, I am officially turning over the ownership of this great city to Chief Running Nose. When Chief Running Nose's ancestors sold the land under our city for $24, they made the settlers promise never to subdivide.
How?
Me, Chief Running Nose. Show how. Because white man speak with forked tongue and subdivide sacred land with forked lift, I forking over certified check for $24. City now mine.
Walt, what does subdivide mean?
It's not unlike what they did with your body. Unlike mine, which is solid and one handsome piece, yours is divided up into a pile of second-hand parts.
We all know the Chief. It's not like him to be an Indian giver.
This show seems very concerned with local politics and policing, and for some reason, it's like they keep going back to like, okay, we put these bad guys in jail. Let's talk to the government officials. That comes up multiple times for some reason.
And this is, again, Batman 66. This is taken right out of the show. He's turning over ownership of the city to Chief Running Nose, who his tribe, they bought the land from, back in the 1700s. And that's right out of Batman 66, the Egghead episode, when Egghead managed to get, Chief Screaming Chicken to get back Gotham City.
Total sidebar. Don't stop listening to this podcast. There's a podcast called comedians like Andy Daly that does a podcast. Comedian Andy Daly does a podcast called Bananas for Bonanza. And they're going through, much like ourselves, they're going through episodes of Bonanza.
Oh.
But they're playing characters as they do it. So it's a little different from our thing. But they constantly remind us that every Indian in Bonanza is played by an elderly Jewish person. An elderly New York actor plays every Indian, but that is what I was reminded of in seeing this guy in this episode.
Well, it's funny because the Batman 66 episode with Egghead and Chief Screaming Chicken. I'm forgetting his name now. He was the narrator of the Fractured Tales on the Bullwinkle show.
Fairy Tales. Okay.
Yes. He played Screaming Chicken, and there was for the longest time a sort of like, don't show that episode. It's culturally insensitive, even though, and yes, there are moments of humor. I mean, obviously the guy's name is Screaming Chicken. He's not played by a Native American and such and all, but the humor was never mocking. It was more just, I don't know. I didn't think so, but then again, that's easy for me to say as the white guy in the room. Very easy to say, but then they miss certain scenes in there. There's a great scene where Batman and Robin are in the Batcave, and Batman explains why Screaming Chicken was so willing to take back the city and work with a villain because, his people have been screwed over for years. And he talks about how when he was a young man, he was told to go back to your country. And Robin says, but this is his country. And he goes, now do you understand why he's so mad? That's pretty, for Batman, that's pretty insightful.
Man, the 60s, man, they got it back then.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm of course, Batman knows his stuff. I approve. Batman's a progressive person.
He is.
I appreciate that. And in this episode too, it's not certainly to the level of even Batman 66, but it's not super. I don't want to say what's insensitive and what isn't, but it's not bad. It's not. It didn't seem outrageous to me. This
one, compared to Batman 66, and where I could say, all right, if you're finding that insensitive, I get it. At worst, his name, Chief Running Nose, and he comes out in the Native American gear, and as we'll find out later on, he doesn't normally wear that stuff because he comes out at the end of the episode in a suit and tie. So, no, and in fact, actually, the thing is, that's really just all the setup, because this isn't about, Native Americans taking back land or anything about like that. That's just the catalyst for the whole thing here.
Yeah, we're still like 2 minutes in.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Although I did find it interesting that one of the things Running Nose orders is that the police force be cut in half. Wholly defund the police.
What the heck?
and there are no arrests, he says.
Nope. 0.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that's another Batman 66, like when they replaced the entire police force with women. And of course they had to do the whole, okay, so we're women and we're tying up the radio lines by talking about sales at department stores instead of reporting crime. And then the whole police force is crippled when what is her name? Nora Clavicle, the feminist, and they make her a bad guy because she's a feminist. She lets loose an army of robot mice all over the city, so all the women are helpless.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Right. But all this setup leads to, we find out that Running Nose isn't Running Nose, and eventually even the mayor isn't the mayor, that they're both being portrayed by the master of disguise, No Face, who's being helped by his henchmen, Plunder and Pillage. Like those names. Yeah. I like those names. And the whole thing with things start getting out of hand. So I forgot about this. And we see it actually at the end of the next episode as well. Walt and the squad are known to the mayor. I completely forgotten about that because they go visit him going, what the heck's going on? And of course, at this point, he's No Face.
Don't salute the mayor, Frank.
Good evening, gentlemen. As mayor, I am always available to the common people. However, from now on, you will please salute when I come into the room.
Mr. Mayor, don't you recognize us?
How can I possibly recognize you with those ridiculous costumes on? Besides, I am much too busy. Go around recognizing every Tom, Dick, and Harry in this city. What did you want to see me about?
Well, sir, as concerned citizens, we want to know if there's anything we can do to help you out in your time of need.
Oh, I appreciate your humble offer.
Then you won't mind turning over Chief Running Nose's land deed.
Huh?
Well, you see, sir, I feel that the citizens of our fair city have the right to test its authenticity.
You are questioning my judgment? Officers, throw these troublemaking creeps out of here.
Okay, troublemaking creeps.
And don't come back.
Does this mean you don't want our help?
Edward Andrews. He was on the Star Lost. Wow. Okay.
Ooh,
I'm about to start watching that. So interesting. The Star Lost, Bonanza. Speaking of Bonanza podcast there. He did 2 episodes of Bewitched.
Okay.
From 69 and 1970, The Battle of Burning Oak and Samantha's Pet Warlock. 2 different characters there.
I hope he got to be with a different Darren in each episode.
Yes. Oh, and here you go. Yes. That's where I remember him most. Now that I look at this, he was also in 2 of, I think there were 3 episodes in total. Genie, Who's Got the Genie? I Dream of Genie. It was the 3-part episode when Genie gets locked in a safe and he's going to be shot to the moon.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And Tony has to bring in his his character. The character is by the name of the Professor to try and safe crack while avoiding Dr. Bellows.
I forgot all. I definitely remember the 3-part episode.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's interesting is, of course, the mayor does not recognize them because, again, they're supposed to be clandestine. Walt's trying to keep them undercover. At the very end of the episode, they're supposed to get an award, but they can't show themselves to get the award. So it's like, so of course the mayor doesn't recognize them. In fact, he's kind of annoyed that they don't salute him. So he has them thrown out.
Yeah. No Face is a jerk.
Yeah, he is.
He's not even trying to pretend to be the mayor who knows them. He's like, I'm just a big old jerk.
He has no patience.
Nope.
That was at least the one thing with Falseface. Falseface could get into the act. Usually he just tripped himself up by saying something, out of, not necessarily even out of character, just, hey, that's not what we talked about or something,
Yeah.
Yeah. But he at least would make the effort to be the character. He's making no effort here.
Falseface was doing the work, and No Face was like, I don't care.
Yep.
I ain't got time for this. I got no face. What am I doing with my day?
Yep. So basically, we find out also then what No Face's scheme is. And I gotta admit, this again is another Batman 66. This would be right out of the comic books even, where basically now that he's legalizing crime because you can't arrest anybody, No Face is just going to wait it out until the city is robbed dry. Then he'll reverse and say crime is illegal. So they have to go and collect all the loots. Meanwhile, everybody's paying him tribute too. They're giving him a portion of what they steal. This is right out of the comic books a lot of times.
I think it is. Yeah. This is a good plan.
It is a good plan.
I think this might work. As I'm going on, I go, wow, this guy's a genius. He's a jerk, but he's a genius. I think he's got something.
Yep. Yeah.
But very complex too for a Saturday morning kids show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, and I think me and you have addressed this before. I don't think that the creators of this show, to their credit, really thought of this as let's make a kids show on. And I think they just made a sitcom.
Yeah.
And it happened to have Frankenstein and now granted, if they had put it on prime time, it wouldn't have lasted all these episodes.
No.
None of it might have gotten 2 episodes.
Yeah.
In 1976 on NBC's primetime lineup. But instead, the whole run, we got everything on Saturday morning.
It's funny too, because I think to myself, okay, yeah, it is a kid's show, but they were also, I get the feeling like, I'm blanking on his name now. Our showrunner here, he knew Stanley Ralph Ross. Thank you. Stanley Ralph Ross knew that adults would be watching too. Like, he knew it was the same way with Batman. You had to have the layers, you had to have the levels of it here. It couldn't all just be the kiddie stuff. Like Electro Woman and Dyna Girl never gets deep. As much as I love it, and as much as I say yes, it too, with especially with Dyna Girl, with her whole Electra this and Electra that, like Robin and all, and the villains and stuff, there is no adult layer other than Dad might like Electro Woman and Dyna Girl's outfits. That's it. You know. This is clearly, like you said, especially the whole political side and the commentaries they make and such, and setting that all. The kids don't care about that stuff when they're watching it, So he was definitely counting on adults watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. Walt then finds the real running nose. And again, I actually forgot about this. I've made a note about it. He actually admits he doesn't wear that outfit normally. He was put in it by No Face.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of went out of their way, because even in the 70s, we weren't at the point where they weren't making Indian jokes on sitcoms and dramas and everything.
No. By then, we'd moved away from that. I mean, the days of F Troop and all that silliness and stuff like that was over. Was it perfect? No, not in the least. But around this same time, there was a Bionic Woman episode where Jamie Summers is somewhat dating a Native American young man. It's hard to tell. On one hand, they act like they're friends, but then on other moments you think, okay, they're a couple and such. He makes jokes. The Native American, and actually he was played by Charlie, I forget his last name now, he was a comedian who used humor to point out, how Native Americans weren't always treated the best, but at the same time, Native Americans also had their issues as well. So he would make jokes about that. So he's making jokes in the episode, about white man speak with this, but he's doing it. Nobody, there's only at one point there, and it's like really harsh, where because he gets killed in the episode about 15 minutes into it, helping to unwittingly stealing something, and one of the guys who's with him is just a total jerk, Richard Lynch. And if you know Richard Lynch, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So of course he just looks at the body on the floor and he goes, "That's one good dead Indian." And the other guy is with him going, "Don't you dare ever say," like he flips out, because it's like he's upset enough that like he kind of like had to kill the kid, and it's like, but then it's like, oh, don't you even add to this right now with your insensitivity and stuff. But it's like, wow, okay, for Bionic Woman that was even harsh.
Jesus Priest.
Yeah. I know.
Mercy.
Well, it was written by the guy who wrote Die Hard, so there you go. And I love this. The reason why he's called Chief Running Nose is because he has hay fever, and that's how Walt knows he's wasn't dealing with the real running nose, because there was no hay fever.
Detective work.
Yes.
Walt he's got that. He doesn't need that crime computer, man. It's all in his. It's all in his brain. Yeah. And uses that brain even further to work out, hey, No Face needs access to makeup, so he's got to be hiding out at an abandoned movie studio. Of course.
Yeah. Come on, that is actually really good.
That's where the old makeup is.
So he sends out, R3 to go and investigate the closest 3 movie theaters. Now I'm thinking to myself, movie studios. I'm thinking to myself, there are 3 abandoned movie studios in your city.
There's not even one in my state, as far as I know of.
Yeah.
And didn't he say there were 6, and they're going to investigate the closest 3?
Yes.
He lucks into it. This is pure luck.
Sure.
What about those other 3 abandoned movie studios with all their makeup sitting around?
Mm-hmm.
Bad guys are going to know. They're going to go to those maybe in other episodes. But oh my gosh,
yeah,
they happen to luck into the half. They covered half their bases, not all the bases, half the bases, and managed to luck into the one where the terrifying No-Face was.
Well, specifically Bruce, because that also leads to what I thought was a funny moment, because he manages to find them, but he gets caught by Pillage and Plunder when they use the Forever Hole spray on his hair.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's very Batman 66. I loved it.
Yep.
He's covered in hair. What else are you going to do? There's nothing for it.
Yep. Absolutely. Something to think about for future werewolf movies.
Yeah. Spray him with hair gel and he's stuck.
That's it. Now, this part I didn't get with No-Face. I don't know what the whole point of it was. Funny, but I just didn't get. He's placed in a giant candle and they light it.
Now, again, we're going back to the whole wax figures thing. So they're terrified of watching Monsters of the Wax Museum. Okay. I think maybe that's. Although, how would these guys know that the monsters were afraid of the Wax Museum movie? Wait a minute. Maybe that giant candle is from the Wax Museum movie that they're afraid of.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe that Wax Museum movie was shot in that movie studio.
They happen to go in. Not only did they find No-Face, but they also found the one out of the 6 movie studios in the city where that one movie they're scared of was filmed.
Right. I mean,
genius. I love it.
They don't say any of this, but I like the backstory that we're filling in here.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a whole lot going on.
Oh, and then of course, the other two come to Bruce's rescue, and we get
Prepare to meet thy doom.
No-Face is dressed up in full armor.
Right now, I'd give an arm and a leg for a giant can opener.
He basically jousts by jumping on Pillage's back, and so with the spear, which he also gives Drac one with a plunger on the end. So Drac jumps on Frank's back, and they're jousting.
That was tremendous physical comedy on behalf of everybody in this scene. I want to backtrack just a moment. I think we skipped over the most terrifying scene ever.
Which was?
The revelation of No-Face.
Oh, yes. Yes.
We mentioned it at the top of the show, but I'm still scarred. Because when they do the reveal, and it's not even it's a voiceover, and it's a dummy, not a ventriloquist dummy, but just it's a non-person, a mannequin, not the cool mannequins like in Mannequin. And I feel like there was a chair spin, and then you see the thing, and then voiceover. That's just nightmarish.
What it is in particular, it's first of all, he's all brown, like the surface of his face looks almost like I'm trying to think of a fruit with like a brown tough skin to it. But what's even more disturbing about it is just the facial features are there, but it's all outline. It's just, you can barely make out like where the eyes would be. You can see the slight ridge of the nose, and you can see there is something of a mouth, but nothing moves.
I've been trying to wrap my head around this ever since. They could have just gotten, another actor to play No-Face, but instead they just got a dummy, a mannequin, and it looks kind of human, which is even worse. It's even worse.
Yeah.
I mean, so No-Face himself as a person has no face.
Yes.
It's not a misnomer like Two-Face or even False-Face. The dude's got no face.
Yeah. And
so it's gross. It's gross and wrong, and I don't like it.
I gotta say it is gross and wrong. I won't say I don't like it. I got because it fits perfectly, like you said.
Oh, it does. Maybe instead of I don't like it, I should say I'm scared of it.
Okay.
This is the first Batman, and if I include all the Batman villains, this is the first one I'm terrified of. Gosh.
I have to wonder if anybody's listening. If anybody who is listening, let me put it that. Those of you that are listening, any of you remember viewing this originally back in 1976? And if you were, because there are things like kids always remember that freak them out. I was always freaked out by like the space vampire in Buck Rogers.
Yeah,
that scared the heck out of me. The sound, the voice, and everything. I kind of had some slight nightmares as a 11-year-old kid back then. But I wonder, like, if anybody watched this and was like, "Oh my God," mom and dad were like, "You can't watch this show anymore; it's too scary."
I hope not for the mental health of any of our viewers.
Yes,
because I do not remember seeing this one when it first aired, but I saw like most of the others. Like as we're watching these, I'm like, but this one I don't have a memory of. Maybe I blocked it out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the trauma just blanked it out.
Right. Yeah. Well, the joust goes on. And again, I like this because it's the movie studio. We've talked about makeup. Drac gets himself some cold cream he finds and smacks Pillage right in the face with it, blinding him so that No Face falls off. And then Frank grabs him and spins him round. Just fun,
It was just a silly fight scene, and I dug it. And it was, and the only time you see that kind of fighting is like when you got some people in a pool with pool noodles, but instead there we have it on a Monster Squad episode, and that was just pure good silliness.
Yes, absolutely, totally agree. So with the No Face and his boys rounded up, we cut back to the wax museum where Walt is having tea with Running Nose.
Do you mean, Chief, that the Hokie Indians really did stipulate that the land could never be subdivided?
Yes, that's right, Walt. I have the original sales... contract. And it does stipulate that if at any time the land is subdivided, that the sale price doubles.
Well, small price to pay. I'm sure the mayor will gladly pay the additional $24 at a first opportunity.
By the way, I thought the mayor was going to drop by after he cleaned off the rest of the wax in the pigeon...
Well, he wanted to, Chief, but he was too busy helping the police clean up the last of those criminals who mistakenly thought crime was still legal.
Well, thank you, Walt.
You bet.
We find out No Face is getting 20 years in solitary. We don't usually find out the sentencing or what, how they're going to be contained. One would assume solitary so he has no chance to emulate anybody.
See, again, this show is very focused on policing, government administration. And this is not the first time this has come up on the show. They really are tuned into laws, rules, civic disobedience.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of just local government is very prominent in this show.
Yes, it is. Yep. And I did like the little touch there because, they're all kind of like, he got what he deserved. But Frank actually, we see our big monster there has a heart. He feels a little sorry for him being all alone in solitary. I thought that was a nice little touch.
I was kind of like, come on, Frank. Did you not see? No, you didn't. You didn't see his face.
No.
His lack thereof.
Yes.
You didn't see it, Frank. You don't tell me that he doesn't deserve solitary. You dial it down, buddy.
So you're on the side of lock him up.
Lock him up. Lock him up. 20 years. I don't care. I don't care how long it takes. And what happens what happens when No Face ages? What does he look like then?
Oh,
he looks terrible.
Yeah.
So many questions.
Yeah. Something we never got a chance to. Now, there you go. That would be something. We've said it before. We would love a Batman 66 Monster Squad team up. Maybe it could be False Face and No Face.
Come on, guys.
You know? It's right in itself.
It's sitting right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And of course, like I said, we got to end on a lighter note as they all sit down to watch the return of the horrors of the Wax Museum, and they freak out once again.
It all comes full circle.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I love that their experiences have not changed them in any way. They're like, nope, still afraid of this, even though we went to a movie studio where they filmed, I think, these movies, and they saw the movie magic, and still terrified.
Still, yes. Anything else in this episode that we didn't get to talk about that I missed?
I think I went far enough down the rabbit hole of terror. I think we're in good shape.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. So all right. So then let me ask you this then. On the scale of 1 to 5, how do you rate No Face?
As a purely from a villainous perspective, he is a 5 across the board. Effective, good at his job, terrifying, well named. He names his accomplices appropriately, creatively, except for the not knowing that the mayor knew the Monster Squad. One mistake, come on.
Yeah.
And then the chicken fight at the end, just non-paralleled. 5 stars.
5 stars.
5 honeypots. Let's see. Maybe in this case, it's 5 terrifying mannequins.
5. There you go. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to call it 5 jars of cold cream, though. So
okay, that's what we're doing. Yes.
I'm going to say cold cream because that to me was just like the best touch. It's like, okay, yes, makeup, cold. Let's bring it all in and let's do it. All right. Well, then that's going to bring us to the conclusion here of this episode of the Batcave podcast. Before we go, Joe, this is going to be out in time. Give us the rundown. What's going on this year for Dragoncon?
Dragoncon, Labor Day weekend in Atlanta, Georgia. Thousands of your closest friends. I'm the co-director of the American Sci-Fi Classics track, so we cover movies and TV shows. We do panels and game shows and silliness and watch parties of stuff from this era, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, that kind of thing. This year, our celebrity guests are Sam J. Jones and Melody Anderson from Flash Gordon. And they've been our guests before. They are terrific. And, of course, Melody Anderson played the lady cop on the greatest television show in history, that being Manimal.
Manimal.
When are we going to get a Manimal podcast from you?
It's got to happen. Maybe I can bribe you into doing it with me.
There you go. Okay.
But it's super easy. It's only going to be 8 episodes.
I know. I've got my DVD. I got it recently. So
yeah. The thing is, so many of my people that you and I both know and are doing like episode by episode recaps of. They're doing podcasts and blogs. A friend of ours, Keith DeCandido, has run through the entire Star Trek, all the Star Trek series, and another buddy of mine is doing Doctor Who from the 60s till now.
Yeah.
So those are big projects. Manimal is not. That is something we can accomplish.
Yes, it is. Okay, we can talk about that.
No, we'll talk about that. But first, let's get through. Well, we're in the middle of Monster Squad. But
yes.
Anyway, we're doing fun stuff like that. We're doing a Manimal panel. Are
you calling it a panel?
I'm gonna call it a panel.
Okay.
And we're also doing we do a roller panel where we have a giant customized 20-sided die, and the audience rolls the die to decide what movies we talk about in that one panel. And then we're doing, we're going to watch some, dare I say, infamous movies, or that Stick in the Muds would call bad movies. We're showing those for charity, for the Dragoncon charity. I'm not positive what it is for this year, but anyway, what we're doing is you come in, you watch the movie, we lock the doors. If you want to leave, you have to donate to the Dragoncon charity.
Nice.
And we've made so much money for charity with people attempting to leave. But this year we're doing like 3 or 4 of those. We're doing, in fact, very appropriate for this very podcast, we're doing the Legends of the Superheroes specials.
Okay.
With Mr. Adam West and Mr. Burt Ward.
Yes.
And they are delightful. From right around the same time period as Monster Squad. Only, I think 78 or 79 is when they premiered.
Yes.
And were only shown once, ever.
Yeah.
on broadcast TV.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to show those and other fun stuff. We just do silliness for 5 days, 4 days. I don't know how long it is. It's a blast. You've been before when the $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman came, and it was tremendous fun every single year. Everybody drop what you're doing. I don't care if you have family obligations. Just come out anyway.
You know, you'll make a lot of money when you get to the second episode of that Legends thing, because all it is just basically a roast, and the jokes are really bad.
Yes, the roasts are not great.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, there's going to be, we're going to tip the scales on the charity donations, I'm hoping.
Right.
But it's going to be a blast. It's going to be an absolute blast.
Cool. And if people want to just find out more information about Dragoncon in general, the best place is dragoncon.org, right?
Yeah, go to dragoncon.org, and for us, our track specifically, just search for American Sci-Fi Classics on YouTube and on Facebook, and we stuff like this all the time.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Well, good luck with that. Have a lot of fun.
Thank you. We will.
Yep.
And our Batcave podcast friend, Kevin Eldridge, is going to be there. So
there you go.
Tons of panels with him. So lots of good stuff, lots of good Batcave podcast goodness. If you're listening to the Batcave podcast, come to Dragoncon.
Fantastic. Well, folks, as I said, that's going to do it for this episode. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week. I've been really good about trying to get these out on a weekly basis. It'll be either Jim Beard with another look at our 1949 Batman movie serial, or Kevin Eldridge with Electro Woman and Dinah Garlic. I just got to see which one lines up, and I can get done faster there in terms of it. But I've been pretty good so far this whole summer. I've had an episode out every week. Whether that goes on into the fall or if it becomes a 2-week thing, we'll see. I'm hoping to keep it weekly because it's been fun. Joe, once again, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Always just a treat.
Yes.
Always great.
And the next time we get together, we're going to be talking about the astrologer.
Oh, can't wait.
Yeah. So until then, folks, thank you so much for listening. Once again, Joe, everyone, take care.